Behind the tall red brick walls of Garden Lodge in Kensington lies one of rock's most sacred addresses. Once just a private mansion, after 1991, it became London's greatest rock shrine, where thousands of fans left flowers, notes, and graffiti to honor Freddie Mercury. It's a striking contrast. The man who set Wembley ablaze with thunderous anthems spent his final days in the quiet embrace of this house. Today, we step inside Garden Lodge to explore his home and the immortal legacy of a legend. But first, let's return to the beginning, his early life and career. Freddie Mercury was born Farrokh Bulsara on September 5, 1946, in Stone Town, Zanzibar, then a British protectorate. His parents, Bomi and Jer Bulsara, were Parsis of Indian descent who practiced Zoroastrianism. From the beginning, Freddie's life was defined by cultural intersections, the rhythms of Africa, the traditions of India, and the discipline of a British colonial education. He spent most of his childhood in India, attending boarding school near Bombay, now Mumbai. It was there, at the age of 7, that he began formal piano lessons. Teachers noted his uncanny ear for music, and by his teens he was leading a school band called the Hectics, playing covers of Cliff Richard and Little Richard. Even then, his friends remembered him as different, a boy with a flair for performance, sketching costumes in notebooks and practicing exaggerated stage moves long before he ever stepped onto a professional stage. By 1964, political unrest in Zanzibar forced the Bulsara family to relocate to England. They settled in Feltham, Middlesex, a modest suburb west of London. For the shy teenager, this move was transformative. England exposed him to the explosion of rock and roll and the counterculture of the 1960s. Freddie enrolled at Ealing Art College, studying graphic design, a skill that would later prove invaluable when he designed the legendary Queen crest, fusing the zodiac signs of all 4 band members into a royal emblem. It was in London's buzzing music scene that Freddie found his true calling. He fell in with a group called Smile, led by guitarist Brian May and drummer Roger Taylor. When their singer departed, Freddie pushed himself forward. By 1971, with bassist John Deacon completing the lineup, the band was reborn as Queen. It was Freddie who suggested the name, bold and provocative, reflecting both grandeur and defiance. What followed was one of the most dazzling careers in rock history. Over the next 2 decades, Queen released 14 studio albums, pioneering a sound that defied genre labels, part rock, part opera, part theatrical spectacle. Their 1975 album, A Night at the Opera, was the pinnacle. It featured Bohemian Rhapsody, a 6-minute suite blending balladry, hard rock, and operatic flourishes. Critics were baffled, radio stations hesitated, but audiences embraced it. The song became a global phenomenon, and the video, often credited as the birth of the modern music video, cemented Queen's legend. From there, the hits came in waves. We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, Somebody to Love, Radio Gaga. Each song showcased not just the power of Queen as a band, but Freddie's unmatched ability to command attention. His stage persona, tight bodysuits, sweeping gestures, and that unmistakable 4-octave voice made him one of the greatest performers the world has ever seen. Freddie also ventured into solo projects. His 1985 album, Mr. Bad Guy, revealed his pop sensibilities, while his 1988 collaboration with Spanish soprano Montserrat Caballé, the album Barcelona, merged rock with opera in groundbreaking ways. The title track became an anthem and was later used at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. By the mid-1980s, Freddie Mercury was more than a rock star. He was a cultural icon. His flamboyance challenged traditional notions of masculinity, his creativity stretched the boundaries of rock, and his voice became the soundtrack of a generation. His induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001, a decade after his death, only confirmed what fans already knew. Freddie Mercury was irreplaceable. And while his music electrified stadiums from Wembley to Rio, his private life was centered in one special place: Garden Lodge Mansion, London. In 1980, at the height of Queen's fame, Freddie Mercury walked through the leafy streets of Kensington, London, and stepped into a Georgian-style brick mansion known as Garden Lodge. The moment he entered, he decided this was it. Without hesitation, he bought the house, located in one of London's most exclusive neighborhoods, for a price that seemed almost secondary to the sense of belonging it gave him. For Freddie, Garden Lodge would become more than a residence. It would be the sanctuary of his final years, the place where the public superstar could finally be private. The home itself reflected the grandeur of Freddie's imagination. The double-height living room was a centerpiece, a soaring space with a wraparound gallery above and light pouring in through tall windows. In one corner stood his beloved Yamaha piano, the instrument where he composed countless hits, including late works like Barcelona. Guests often described evenings when Freddie would glide down the staircase, settle at the keys, and fill the room with melodies that would later echo across the world's stadiums. Color was everything to him. His dining room was painted in bold yellow, his favorite shade, chosen because it symbolized joy and energy. This was the room for laughter, for dinner parties that blended friends from every corner of London society, fashion designers, rock stars, opera singers, and neighbors alike. Freddie loved to play host, insisting on extravagant meals, plenty of wine, and spontaneous sing-alongs. Perhaps the most personal corner of the house was the Japanese room, which opened directly onto a serene Japanese garden. Freddie adored Japanese art and culture, and he worked with designers to create a space that felt like a meditation on beauty itself. The garden bloomed with magnolia trees, manicured topiary, and a tranquil pond that reflected the sky. This was where Freddie entertained guests on summer nights, but also where he sought solitude, walking among the flowers, cigarette in hand, as he mulled over melodies or simply enjoyed silence. Upstairs, his master bedroom was a world of its own: mirrored walls, ornate furniture, and closets overflowing with hundreds of his stage costumes. Sequined bodysuits, velvet capes, leather jackets, all lived here, tangible reminders of the larger-than-life persona he brought to the stage. Yet for those who entered, the bedroom also carried warmth. It was not just the lair of a showman, but the retreat of a man who valued beauty in every corner of his life. Freddie poured himself into every detail. He personally oversaw the design of the garden, insisting on specific trees and stones, because he wanted a place where he could celebrate life's milestones. Birthdays, anniversaries, and countless legendary parties unfolded here, with Freddie at the center, raising a glass, always the brightest star in the room. When he passed away in 1991, Freddie left Garden Lodge and all its contents to marry Austin, the woman he called the love of his life and his common-law wife. She kept the house as he left it, preserving not just his belongings, but his presence. For decades, Garden Lodge became a silent monument to Freddie, rarely seen by outsiders but deeply cherished by those who knew him. Outside its red brick walls, however, the story was different. Fans from around the world turned Garden Lodge into a rock shrine, covering the exterior wall with graffiti, notes, and flowers. For years, the street outside became a pilgrimage site, London's own answer to Graceland, but in some ways even more intimate. While Elvis's mansion welcomes tourists with ticket booths and guided tours, Freddie's house remained private, its magic whispered through the tributes scrawled on its walls. But behind the beauty of Garden Lodge lies another story: the vast fortune, royalties, and enduring empire that Freddie Mercury built, which continues to grow even after his passing. Income and net worth. When Freddie Mercury passed away in November 1991, his fortune was estimated at around $50 million, a sum that already placed him among the wealthiest rock stars of his era. The foundation of that fortune was Queen itself, With over 300 million albums sold worldwide, the band remains one of the best-selling music acts of all time. Royalties from record sales, licensing deals, and airplay continue to pour in every year. Their 1986 Magic Tour, famously closing at Wembley Stadium, was one of the highest-grossing tours of its decade, bringing in tens of millions and proving Queen could fill arenas and stadiums like few others. Freddie's personal contributions extended beyond the band. His solo works, including Mr. Bad Guy, 1985, and Barcelona, 1988, generated additional publishing rights and royalties. And because Freddie co-wrote so many of Queen's biggest hits, Somebody to Love, Don't Stop Me Now, Killer Queen, his publishing stake guaranteed that even long after his death, his estate would receive a steady stream of income. By the 2000s and 2010s, that stream had become a river. The Queen estate regularly generated more than $10 million annually, thanks to continued record sales, streaming revenue, and the timeless appeal of their music. Then, in 2018, a new cultural wave sent Freddie's earnings soaring again. The release of the biopic Bohemian Rhapsody. The film grossed over $900 million worldwide, won 4 Academy Awards, and reintroduced Queen's music to a new generation. In the year following the film's release, Queen's catalog sales skyrocketed, and Freddie's estate reaped a huge windfall. Another major moment came in 2023, when Sotheby's auctioned Freddie's personal belongings, ranging from handwritten lyrics to flamboyant stage costumes. The centerpiece was his beloved Yamaha piano, the very instrument on which he composed Bohemian Rhapsody, which sold for an astonishing $2.2 million. Altogether, the auction generated more than $50 million, further elevating the value of his estate and reminding the world how deeply fans still connect to his legacy. And in 2025, the biggest deal of all was struck. Sony acquired Queen's music catalog for $1 billion. As one of the band's principal songwriters and performers, Freddie's share of the proceeds ensured that his estate received a monumental payout, solidifying his financial legacy well into the future. Today, Freddie Mercury's estate is valued at around $100 million, a remarkable figure for someone who has been gone for more than 3 decades. This places him alongside other immortal icons like John Lennon and Elvis Presley, whose estates continue to generate millions long after their passing. Freddie once joked that he never cared about money, only about music. And yet, the empire he left behind is a testament to both his artistry and his vision. His music became not just a soundtrack to millions of lives, but also one of the most enduring assets in rock history. But behind the numbers and contracts lies a more personal story. The relationships, loves, and chosen family that defined Freddie Mercury's private world, personal life. His most enduring connection was with Mary Austin, a young woman he met in the early 1970s while she was working at a boutique in Kensington. Their romance quickly deepened, and for several years, they lived together as a couple. Although their romantic relationship ended when Freddie came to terms with his sexuality, their bond never dissolved. He often called her his common-law wife, and more poignantly, his only true friend. Mary remained his closest confidant, the person who understood him without judgment. When he died, he left Garden Lodge and most of his fortune to her, a gesture that spoke louder than words about her place in his heart. Beyond Mary, Freddie's love life included a number of relationships that shaped his emotional world. He was linked to David Minns, an executive in the music industry, and later to German restaurateur Winfried Kirchberger. But it was Jim Hutton, an Irish hairdresser, who became Freddie's final partner and, in many ways, his emotional anchor during his most vulnerable years. They met in 1985, and though their relationship began quietly, it grew into something deeply committed. Jim lived with Freddie at Garden Lodge during his final years, caring for him and standing by his side through illness. Freddie affectionately called Jim his husband, a reflection of how deeply he valued their bond. Even in 2025, more than 3 decades after his passing, Freddie's private life continues to spark fascination. The biography Love, Freddie made headlines by suggesting that in 1976, during a brief relationship, Freddie fathered a daughter, referred to only as B. While unconfirmed, the claim ignited speculation about a side of Freddie's life he fiercely kept private. True or not, it only reinforced the sense of mystery surrounding a man who shared so much of himself on stage but guarded his deepest truths. Freddie's personality was full of contradictions. He was flamboyant and exuberant in public, yet in private he could be shy and contemplative. Friends describe him as generous to a fault, showering loved ones with extravagant gifts, from houses to jewels. He adored hosting lavish parties at Garden Lodge, filling the rooms with laughter, champagne, and music until dawn. Yet he also cherished moments of quiet, walking through his Japanese garden, listening to opera, or simply sitting at the piano, lost in thought. And while those closest to him gave him joy, his final years were shadowed by an illness that would ultimately end his life, yet never diminish his legend. Illness and death. In 1982, Freddie began to show the first vague signs of illness: fatigue, unexplained fevers, and recurring infections. At the time, few understood the global health crisis that was emerging. By the mid-1980s, whispers had started. Tabloid newspapers speculated relentlessly about his health, noting weight loss and a gaunter appearance on stage. By 1986, as Queen played their legendary Wembley concerts, rumors of AIDS had become louder, though no confirmation was given. By 1987, doctors formally diagnosed Freddie with HIV/AIDS, a disease that at that time carried enormous stigma and almost certain fatality. Instead of retreating, Freddie chose silence. He confided in only his closest circle, and for nearly 2 years, even his bandmates, Brian May, Roger Taylor, and John Deacon, were kept in the dark. It wasn't until 1989, during the recording of The Miracle, that he finally told them the truth. "I don't want people buying our records out of pity," he reportedly said. His focus remained on the music, not the illness. Through those years, Freddie kept working with remarkable intensity. Queen's final studio album with him, Innuendo, 1991, carried lyrics that in hindsight read like parting words. "These are the days of our lives" became a poignant farewell. The accompanying video, filmed in May 1991, shocked fans when it was released. Freddie appeared gaunt and frail, dressed simply in a waistcoat, his once robust frame reduced by illness. Yet his eyes still sparkled with the same fire that had lit stadiums for decades. For many, it was the last glimpse of their idol. On 22 November 1991, after years of silence, Freddie issued a public statement confirming what had long been speculated. He was living with HIV/AIDS. It was direct, heartfelt, and courageous. "I felt it correct to keep this information private to date, to protect the privacy of those around me. However, the time has come now for my friends and fans around the world to know the truth." It was the first and only public acknowledgement of his illness, and it came just 1 day before his death. On the evening of 24 November 1991, Freddie Mercury passed away at Garden Lodge. He was only 45 years old. The official cause was bronchial pneumonia resulting from AIDS. News of his death reverberated around the globe. Radio stations stopped their programming to play Queen songs, and fans flooded the streets outside Garden Lodge with flowers, candles, and messages. The gates of his Kensington home were soon buried under a sea of tributes, transforming the mansion into an impromptu shrine. His funeral was held on 27 November 1991, conducted according to Zoroastrian tradition, honoring his Parsi heritage. Only 35 close friends and family attended, including his parents, Mary Austin, Elton John, and his bandmates. Aretha Franklin's gospel voice filled the chapel, and Montserrat Caballé, his Barcelona collaborator, sent flowers in memory. It was a private, solemn farewell for a man whose life had been anything but quiet. To this day, the exact location of Freddie's ashes remains a mystery. Mary Austin, entrusted with his remains, has never disclosed where she placed them. She once said, "He wanted to rest in peace, not be hunted." That secrecy has only added to the aura of Garden Lodge, which became a pilgrimage site for fans worldwide. Thousands journeyed to the red brick walls, leaving graffiti, poems, and declarations of love, turning it into what many call the Graceland of London. Freddie's death also had a profound cultural impact. It brought the AIDS crisis into sharper focus, humanizing a disease that had too often been hidden in shame. In 1992, the Freddie Mercury tribute concert for AIDS awareness was held at Wembley Stadium, featuring Elton John, David Bowie, George Michael, and countless others. The event was watched by over 1 billion people worldwide and raised millions for HIV/AIDS research, securing Freddie's legacy not only as a rock icon, but as a symbol of compassion and change. Even in death, Freddie Mercury defied the ordinary. His passing was not an end, but a transformation. His voice immortalized on vinyl, his image frozen in stadium lights, his home turned into a shrine. He was a man who gave everything on stage, and in his final act, gave the world honesty and courage. From Zanzibar to Wembley, from the roaring crowds to the quiet halls of Garden Lodge, Freddie Mercury's journey was one of brilliance, love, and courage. His music redefined rock, his style shattered conventions, and his final home became a living memory of who he was. Freddie lived larger than life, but also sought peace in the walls of his sanctuary. Thank you for joining us on this final house tour in memory of a true icon. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to keep exploring the homes and lives of music's greatest legends.